For decades, NATO has stood as one of the strongest military alliances in modern history. Built after World War II to protect Europe and North America from major security threats, the alliance has often been seen as unbreakable. The United States has remained NATO's most powerful member, spending billions of dollars on defense and leading military operations across the world. But now, an important question is emerging: why are some NATO countries frustrated with America? Could cracks be forming inside the alliance? Recent political tensions, military disagreements, and financial disputes have raised concerns about the future of NATO. Although the alliance remains strong, disagreements between America and some European allies have become more visible than ever before. The defense spending dispute. One of the biggest reasons behind tensions between NATO countries and America is defense spending. For years, the United States has argued that European countries are not contributing enough money to their own defense. NATO members agreed that each country should spend at least 2% of its GDP on military defense. However, many countries struggled to reach this target for years. America repeatedly complained that it was carrying too much of the burden while European nations benefited from U.S. military protection. This criticism became especially strong during the presidency of Donald Trump. Trump openly criticized NATO allies and warned that countries failing to pay enough should not expect unlimited American protection. His statements shocked many European leaders and sparked fears about whether America was fully committed to NATO's future. Some European politicians viewed Trump's comments as pressure tactics, while others considered them a serious threat to alliance unity. The Ukraine war changed everything. The war in Ukraine dramatically reshaped NATO's priorities. When Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine, NATO countries united to support Ukraine with military aid, financial assistance, and sanctions against Russia. However, unity did not mean complete agreement. Different NATO members had different opinions on how far support should go. Some countries strongly supported sending advanced weapons and increasing military involvement, while others feared that pushing too hard could create a larger conflict between NATO and Russia. The United States took a major leadership role in supporting Ukraine, but some European countries quietly worried about becoming too dependent on American decisions. Questions began to rise. What happens if America changes its political priorities? What if a future U.S. government reduces support for Europe? Can Europe defend itself without America? These concerns increased discussions inside Europe about building stronger independent military capabilities. Europe's fear of America first. Another major source of tension is America's changing political direction. Many European leaders worry about policies centered around America first, an approach that focuses more heavily on U.S. domestic interests than global commitments. Some European governments fear that future American administrations may reduce military commitments abroad or expect Europe to handle more of its own security challenges. This fear is not entirely new. Several times in recent years, European leaders questioned whether the United States would always respond quickly during a crisis. As a result, discussions about a stronger European defense system have grown louder. Some leaders even suggested that Europe should become less dependent on Washington for military security. Still, many experts believe this would take years, possibly decades, to achieve. Political disagreements inside the alliance. NATO members do not always agree on global politics. The United States and European countries sometimes clash over issues such as relations with China, Middle East conflicts, trade policies, military interventions abroad, climate and economic strategies. For example, some European countries prefer diplomacy in certain conflicts where America favors stronger military action. These disagreements do not mean NATO is collapsing, but they show that the alliance is not always united behind every American decision. Is NATO actually breaking apart? Despite dramatic headlines, experts generally agree that NATO is not breaking apart anytime soon. Why? Because NATO members still face common security concerns, especially regarding Russia and global instability. The alliance offers something few countries want to lose: collective defense. Under NATO's Article 5, an attack on one member is considered an attack on all members. This principle has helped maintain stability in Europe for decades. Even countries frustrated with America still understand the importance of U.S. military power. America provides advanced weapons systems, intelligence, air defense, logistics, and nuclear deterrence that many NATO countries cannot easily replace. Simply put, NATO without America would look very different, and far weaker. The Trump factor and growing anxiety. The possibility of Donald Trump returning to power has again sparked debate inside NATO. Trump previously questioned whether America should always defend countries that fail to meet spending goals. These statements caused anxiety among European allies. Some NATO leaders fear that if America reduces its commitment, Europe could become more vulnerable to external threats. Others argue Trump's tough approach actually forced Europe to increase military spending. In fact, since the Ukraine war began, many NATO countries have significantly increased defense budgets. So while Trump created controversy, some analysts say his pressure pushed NATO members toward stronger military readiness. America still needs NATO too. Although discussions often focus on whether Europe needs America, experts also argue that America benefits greatly from NATO. The alliance gives Washington strategic military bases across Europe, intelligence cooperation, stronger global influence, and reliable allies during international crises. NATO also strengthens America's ability to project military power worldwide. Without NATO, America could face larger defense costs and weaker international partnerships. This means the relationship is not one-sided. Both sides depend on each other. Media headlines versus reality. Social media and sensational headlines sometimes create the impression that NATO and America are on the edge of separation. Phrases like, NATO furious at America, or, the alliance is collapsing, often attract attention, but reality is more complicated. Yes, disagreements exist. Yes, frustration exists. But political disagreements happen in almost every major alliance. Even close allies argue over money, military strategy, and leadership. The real question is not whether NATO is angry at America, but whether both sides can adapt to changing global realities. The bigger threat: a changing world. Today's world is more unstable than it was 20 years ago. Rising tensions with Russia, China's growing power, cyber warfare, economic uncertainty, and regional conflicts are reshaping global security. Because of these challenges, many analysts believe NATO members have more reasons to stay together than to split apart. Instead of breaking, NATO may simply be evolving. European countries are becoming stronger militarily, while America continues to demand greater burden sharing. This changing balance may create tension, but not necessarily collapse. Final analysis: should the world be worried? So, is NATO angry with America? The answer is partly yes, but not in the way dramatic headlines suggest. Some NATO countries disagree with America on defense spending, foreign policy, and long-term commitments. European leaders worry about becoming too dependent on Washington, especially during uncertain political times. At the same time, America feels frustrated that it contributes more to NATO's security than many allies. But frustration does not equal separation. The reality is simple: NATO and America still need each other. The alliance faces enormous global threats, and despite political disagreements, most member countries understand that unity remains their strongest defense. For now, NATO is not collapsing. But the debates happening today could shape the future of global power for decades to come. One question remains: will NATO emerge stronger from these tensions, or could growing disagreements eventually change the alliance forever?